There can be only one podcast, and may it be the Princess of the Universe. Hi, folks, I'm Matt, and we're here going over Highlander TV novelizations. But first, and I totally forgot about this, and I almost skipped it completely. I told you a long time ago I was going to tell you about an experience I had when I first met Adrian Paul, the Highlander. Yes, face to face. Now, I want to say that we talked about this a long time ago in an early episode of Prince of the Universe, but it's been a while, and I wanted to recount the story. I think this is still on YouTube, even though, gosh, it's been. Oh no, I know it's on YouTube. Me talking to him. So here's how it goes. My wife and I used to go to a ton of cons. If you've been following me for a couple of years, you know that. And one of the cons we went to was the very first ever Knoxville Comic Con, or Knoxville Fan Expo. And we went because they just had a lot of people there that I'd never seen at a convention before. I was like, well, that's really interesting. I don't see hardly any. And Adrian Paul, the Highlander, was one of them, as were a few other people I just had never seen at a con. I was like, wow. I said, you know what? I'm gonna try this out. So I asked my wife. She was all gung-ho for it. So we drove up to Knoxville and experienced the very first Knoxville Comic Con. It took place in a little area. It was the only year it took place there, because after that it exploded. It got super popular. The vendors were awesome back then, and there's still, from the last time we went a couple of years ago, there's still some good vendors. They give you some good deals. You can get some good deals there. Not as many as you could back in the early days, but we got some great deals back in the early days. But you could get some pretty solid deals at the Knoxville Fan Expo. That's one of the things I liked about it. But anyway, so we wanted to meet Adrian Paul, or I did. My wife didn't really care. And so we're sitting, they have these like little baseball bleachers they brought in so people could sit in there, but they were only like 3 or 4 seats high. They weren't really that big, and there's only 2 of them. And so they had this little mini stage set up in the corner where, you know, the actor would just walk on the stage and just talk to everyone. So he's telling us about Highlander, the TV show. Back then there was a rumor there was going to be a reboot with Ryan Reynolds that never made. I remember hearing about that reboot. Everyone booed and everything. And so he talks about what he's doing now, which was kind of boring. And then they say, okay, does anyone have a question for Adrian Paul? And he said, just come up here and you can ask it. And I looked at my wife and I said, Did he just say you could come up to on the stage and ask? Because there's kind of an unwritten rule. You keep the fans and the stars separate. Usually the mic's brought out to the fans, or there's a mic stand out in the stands, so that the fans can just go up to it. But you don't get to walk up on stage next to the, it's like sitting down next to some of the bigwigs on the stage and just kind of chatting with them about movies. I was like, I think that's what they're going to let us do. And she said, yeah. Well, no one knew what to ask. Everyone was just kind of enthralled that Adrian Paul was there. It's Knoxville. A bunch of hicks didn't know what to do. So I got up. I rose my hand. I said, yeah, I'm coming. So I came down there. I grabbed the mic from the guy. And this is on video camera, too. It's on video. My wife actually videotaped the whole thing and took a few pictures, too. So anyway, in it, I'm talking to the man, Adrian Paul. We're going back and forth. And I'm just next to him, shoulder to shoulder, put my hand on his shoulder and everything. I went up to him. I'm a big fan. He's like, whoa, man, getting a little freaky. He said, I'm your best looking fan. He's like, no, you're not my best looking fan. You're my ugliest looking fan. He was laughing. I said, man, I meet the guy in my dreams. I meet the guy. I look up to him. He calls me ugly. I'm being goofy and everything. And man, the crowd's loving it. They're laughing at us. We're going back and forth. I said, now come on. He said, you need to. I said, we want a revival. We want a Highlander revival. And then he's like, no, we can't do that anymore. It's kind of got that ship's kind of already sailed. And I went, start a revolution. He said, what? I said, start a revolution. He said, start a revolution. I said, yeah. I said, who wants to see him back? And everyone's cheering. He went, no. He said, look, don't quote me like that. He said, if I say something like that, that's going to get in the news media that Adrian Paul's upset about the new Highlander. And he said, I don't care. He said, because I replaced Connor McLeod back in the day, and that was a big deal, and people hated me. So I don't want someone to hate the new Highlander, because I know what it's like. It's rough to replace, the guy who previously played the role. And then I remember I put my arm around him, and I think this is on the clip. I said, look around you. And there was like all these video cameras going on. I said, we're going to be on YouTube in a few minutes anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And I waved to everyone and said, "Hi, Mom, I'm with Adrian Paul," and was freaking out. And everyone's just laughing. It was just great. And even though the video clip doesn't show all of it, I do remember, because I don't know, I lost the actual the full footage, which hurt my heart. So I only have that small clip I put up on YouTube. Back when I thought, I can't put up a 15-minute clip on YouTube. It should only be, 5 minutes. Or back in the day, I think YouTube limited how long your clips could be. So I just wanted to put like a 2-minute clip on there or something. But the whole clip, you could see me because the guy, I just took over the show. I would not get down from the stage. I seriously talked to him for a good 15 minutes or so. And the whole time, I didn't even notice this until I watched the whole video. The guy, and you can kind of see a few of it in the clip, he tries to reach for the mic. And I didn't even know this, but I'm pulling away right as he's going for the mic. And I start talking again. And then eventually he just comes up to me and just takes the mic from me. And that's when I realized, oh, I'm overstaying my welcome. And so I stayed there for a little while, thanked him for his time, and went back down. And then later on got his autograph and thanked him again, said he was really awesome. And it was kind of funny because afterwards my wife's like, "Oh, I can't believe you ham." But I sat down and said, "Did you take pictures?" She went, "Yeah. I even got the video too." I said, "You videotaped it?" Because I didn't ask her to videotape. I said, "Take some pictures of me and Adrian Paul up there." Because I was like, this is awesome. I couldn't wait to tell Bruce about this, that I got to stand side by side and talk to the Highlander himself. But I was just enthralled when she got video footage too. Man, I must have showed that to Bruce a billion times. I was so proud of my time with Adrian Paul, freaking out about it. But I remember people were coming to me and saying, "We loved you at that Q&A. You're so funny," and yada yada. And even though my wife was rolling her eyes, we did get the hookup on some Dukes of Hazzard merchandise. Because there was one guy, he came up to me and said, "Hey, you were the guy in the Q&A." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Dude," he said, "you had me and my buddy laughing so hard." And so we talked for a little while, and we were talking about, I can't remember what came up, but I think that was when my wife got the Dukes of Hazzard board game. And he saw it. He went, "Oh," he said, "where'd you get that?" And she told him. She said, "Yeah." I said, "We got real quick." He said, "Dang." He said, "I already got one." He said, "But I buy any and everything Dukes of Hazzard." And we're like, "Really?" He said, "Oh, yeah, man." He said, "I got tons of Dukes of Hazzard stuff at my house." And my wife's a huge fan. I said, "Really?" I said, and she goes, "Oh, I'd love to see it." He went, "Yeah, come on up." He said, "Come over to the house." He said, "When are y'all staying?" I said, "Well, we're going to be leaving in a few minutes." He just said, "Yeah, well, I'm going home now." He said, "But, he gave me his cell phone number. He said, just give me a call. I'll give you directions." He said, "And I'll give you some of my stuff. I got doubles of that stuff." And we're like, "Okay." And so he goes off, and then I told my wife, I said, "Okay, you ready to go?" I said, "Do you really want to go out to this guy's house?" We're like, "Yeah." So I called him. He told me the address and everything, and I got directions. This is before GPS. I think I did have a Garmin GPS back in the day. So I put it in my Garmin. This is back before GPS was in your phone. And so we followed it, and we were going out into the sticks, man. I was like, oh, my goodness, I don't know about this. I've seen some movies before where you go out and the hillbillies come at you, So we're getting a little nervous. The house is nice, but it's kind of country, and you could see you got a little bit of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibe, not a big one, but a little one from it. And I guess I don't think my wife today would have done this, but she really wanted to, because he said he'd sell us some of the Dukes of Hazzard stuff, and she really wanted to see what Dukes of Hazzard stuff he had. So his downstairs is where he kept everything, and so he went downstairs, and there was it was kind of like a basement, but kind of above ground basement. He had a huge collection of Dukes of Hazzard stuff. And at this time, I don't remember, there was a TV show that was really awesome. I used to watch it all the time, called The Toy Hunter. It was a guy who went into people's attics, found toys. This is back when you were trying to, I can't remember, those people would go into junkyards and find classics, or, storage wars was going on. So he was the toy hunter. He hunted for new toys or old vintage toys. Well, the guy had heard about this Dukes of Hazzard guy, and he called him up and said, "Hey, the Toy Hunter would like to do an episode with you." He went, "Absolutely not." And he told us that. He said, "Y'all know so-and-so, the Toy Hunter?" I went, "Yeah." He went, "They tried to do an episode with me, but I'm not going to sell stuff to him. He just wants to make money off these toys." He said, "I only give these toys and sell these toys to fans. And fans are the only ones." And so we're like, "Oh, yeah, I understand." Well, my wife picked up a ton of stuff. Anything that we had double, he said, he showed us all the stuff he had doubles of. He said, "Just show me what you want and I'll tell you what I'll pay for it." And so we got a good collection of stuff from him. And then he said, "Okay." And he looked it over, and I mean, there was TV dinner trays and lunch boxes and everything, things that were worth, I mean, they're worth hundreds of dollars. And I was like, my wife is not going to be able to afford this. And then he just kind of looked at my wife. He said, "Are you truly a fan?" And my wife said, "Yeah, ask me any question." I mean, my wife starts going off, and we kind of cheated because we had just seen all the episodes together. So my wife really, well, I mean, she's pretty familiar with the series anyway, but she was talking about TV series and what she liked. And they talked Dukes of Hazzard for the longest time. He's like, "Okay, you're a true fan." And I think he gave it to her all for free, or just like for a really low price. I remember, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, that's the price of the lunchbox alone, not to mention everything else in there. So my wife's looking at me, I'm like, yeah, that's a great deal. And I mean, like an old school sleeping bag, I remember, and it was all this awesome stuff. And as a collector, I mean, I'm not a Dukes of Hazzard collector. The only thing that I have fond memories of is a die-cast Dukes of Hazzard car, Hot Wheels car, that me and my brother used to play with. Me and my brother each had one, a General Lee, and that was the coolest car in my Hot Wheels collection for years. I mean, nothing beat the General Lee. We remember ramping it off the couch. It ramped through the living room into the kitchen because it could ramp forever. So it could almost like fly, and that's what the ramping was. It's a flying car, which made it cool because you didn't have to drive it on the ground the whole time or over the carpet or whatever. And absolutely loved it. In fact, for my birthday years ago, my brother found one at an old antique store in town, and he picked it up and got me it. And I picked up another one later on down the road. But the die-cast cars are something that I really enjoyed as a kid. And now I have our own collection, or it may be my wife's collection. But we have the Daisy Jeep, Cooter's truck, and the I can't remember what else they have. I think the police cars too. So, and the Boss Hogs limo, they made one of that too. So I got all those. So I have a complete collection of those, which are really nice. And the board game, I'll be honest, is pretty fun too. We have a card game too. I don't know if we got that card game from them or not. I can't remember. But anyway, so we got all this awesome Dukes of Hazzard stuff from him. It was really cool, and he gave it to us for really cheap, and that was really nice. It was really nice to meet him. In fact, we were friends with him for years. We went back to Knoxville, but we never really saw him. But my wife was friends with him on Facebook, and like a few of those people from that very first Knoxville trip, every once in a while, I know they're friends with my wife because she has Facebook, and they keep up. And you know, like some of them when they do go, it was a year that we weren't going to go, and now, I mean, with the girls, I mean, it'd be fun to go take my twins to a one of those Comic Cons, maybe when they get a little older. It'd be a lot of fun, but I think that would be fun. And eventually I'd like to go back. There's a few Comic Cons I like to go back. Of course, in the year of COVID, I'd like to go anywhere. Even the Dallas Comic Con that I absolutely despise, the guy who runs that. I'd rather go back to him than do anything because I didn't get to go to any convention this year, and that's what really sucks because, you know, I really enjoy going to conventions, and I'd probably take the girls too. I think they would kind of have fun, at least for a day or so. But either way, that's my Highlander story. I had a good time. And also, Star Wars fans, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this story. It's really weird, and I don't know if this is, I don't know how true this is. I'm just guessing at this point. But I think I was given a hint about the Disney acquisition months before it happened and didn't realize it. What I mean is, there was a Lucasfilm employee we met at the Knoxville Comic Con. He had worked on Return of the Jedi, and so I was talking to him, and he still worked for Lucasfilm today. And I was like, yeah, so what's going on? He told me, he's like, there's going to be a big announcement in the next couple of months. That's what he told me, and this was back in July. He said, wait. He said, in the next few months. He said, I can't talk about it at all, but in the next few months, he said, there's going to be a huge announcement on Star Wars. I was thinking, oh, okay. I didn't know what that was. I'm sure he was thinking new movies I was thinking, but I didn't know what to think. I was like, I knew they weren't going to make more movies. I was like, what's the big announcement? I didn't think it was going to be something that big. Maybe the TV series, you know, that we always heard rumored was going to come back. And then a few months later, the news hit, you know. The news broke out that October 30th that he'd sold it to Disney. And I was like, whoa. Well, then, like, I don't know, like a year or maybe a few months later, I was hanging up all my autographs. I got an autograph of, he worked on Jabba the Hutt. It's one of the things that he worked on. So I just had him sign a Jabba the Hutt picture for me. And then I looked at that and I was like, wait a minute. And I remember telling my wife, because I had to make sure my wife, I said, didn't he say there was something big going down? She went, yeah. She went, do you think it was the Disney acquisition? I went, I don't know, because the way you hear interviews now, that was a big, big secret between George and Bob Iger. And I mean, he may have let a few people at Lucasfilm know, but you don't want to let too many people know. And as far as I know, this guy from Lucasfilm wasn't a big wig. He was just someone who'd been with the company for a long time. Maybe that's why George trusts him, though, since he'd been with him since '83 or whatnot. I don't know. And to be honest, maybe it was something else. Maybe it was detours or something he was going to tell me about, or maybe there was going to be a TV show or something. I don't know. So, like I said, it's kind of possible I may have gotten a hint, but I didn't know and I didn't understand. Surely, if he would have told me they're going to sell it to Disney, I'd been like, yeah, you're an idiot. That's never going to happen. I never thought something like that would happen. But that may have been the time I also got that big hint. Man, that was a good con, because I'm thinking about what else I got. Eric, can't think of his last name now, the guy who played Mace in the Ewok movie. That was the first time I'd met him. He's a sad guy. He has delusions of grandeur. He wrote his own book, and he should have got an editor because the book is awful. I mean, there's some good stuff here and there, but it's written terribly. He should have had it edited. He talks about, he's going to have his own production company called Star Warriors, and he even gives you the first chapter of his great epic story of Star Warriors. That's going to be a radio show and a TV series and a movie. And it's going to be all these. He's pitching it to Hollywood right now, and I'm like, yeah, dude, this isn't happening. Your life's not going anywhere. I mean, it's sad because he seemed like a nice guy, but definitely kind of delusional. A little bit. It's funny because he talks about how Warwick Davis and him were the best of friends. I'm sure they were on the set. Warwick Davis comes out with an autobiography. Hardly the Ewok movies were just like a short part of in his book, and he doesn't even mention anyone in the cast. Ouch. Absolutely, he doesn't even mention the Eric kid. So, ouch. That's got us smart, right? And to be honest, Warwick David's autobiography. I know I did a review on this on Prince of the Universe a long time ago when Bruce got it for me. Warwick Davis's autobiography isn't really that good. I mean, it focuses a little bit on Return of the Jedi, but the Ewok movies, which I really wanted to know about and should have been a big part of his life, he just kind of skips over and goes into the Leprechaun movies, which were interesting too. But overall, I'm like, I want to hear more Star Wars, because he's a big Star Wars guy. You think he'd talk about more than just Return of the Jedi. I mean, if I was him, I'd be pumping up hey guys, I made these other Ewok movies too. You should watch them. I don't know, maybe he's ashamed of them or something. But either way, I always kind of figured that he probably should have mentioned that as well. But anyway, what a great con that was. And meeting Adrian Paul was just like a dream come true. I do have an autograph of him. It's in my hallway. One of my favorite autographs I've gotten. I've gotten a lot of good ones, but Adrian Paul was a big check mark there. There's not that many people I'd want to grab an autograph from these days, but we got about mostly everyone. I mean, there's a handful of people I guess I'd want, but other than that, though, meeting Adrian Paul, and the man, like I said, back then in 2013, man didn't look a day older than what he was back in 1993 doing the series. At least to me, he didn't. Maybe I was looking at him through rose-colored glasses. I don't know. So let's get to the final book. Okay, done with a small bit here. I want to talk about the final book in the Highlander TV novelization series. So sad. This one's called White Silence, and it's written by Ginger Buchanan. So again, all women here. And this one has Fitz on the cover. Now, I cannot for the life of me, it's one of the flashbacks. They look like Three Musketeer days, where Fitz is rolling out of bed and there's a woman standing over him. So I kind of remember the episode, but not too much. But immediately when I saw Fitz on the cover, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. It's starring Fitz. And that's comedic, right? When you have Fitz, it's going to be a comedy. So here we go. For some reason, they shove Amanda in there at the beginning of the first few pages, and then she walks away. This is a total flashback. This is one big flashback. And it's about, mainly it focuses on Fitz, Duncan, and Danny. Now, Danny is the immortal protege of Fitz. And this is back in the Yukon days when they used to travel up to Alaska, the great Yukon, and search for gold. You got to get rich because there's gold up there. And so it's back in those days. So Amanda is with him at the very first chapter, I think, just talking about how silly they are and there's easier ways to get gold than to dig out in the frozen tundra. But Fitz is like, no, we're going to be rich and famous. And Danny's like, yeah, rich and famous, rich and famous. He's kind of a brand new and immortal. Pretty good with a sword, though. Fitz even says he's better than me, Duncan, And so Danny's with them, and Danny's I think Danny's an Irishman who gets in a lot of fights and runs his mouth. And Duncan warns him about, hey, don't tip your hat that we're immortal. Come on, snap out of it. So, and for some reason during this trip, there's also a short scene with Connor. It almost feels like this is supposed to tie into another story with Connor McLeod, because he talks about something going on right now, and Duncan agrees, and he'll meet up with him later after he's finished with the Yukon. And you're like, okay, is that going to be the second half of the story? No, that's kind of it. I mean, Connor will come back again and give him another update, and you're like, well, was it building toward another story? Did Ginger have another story in mind she wanted to use? Or it almost felt like this was connecting to something else that was going on at that time, and Connor and Duncan had to meet, so she had to do that scene to fit it all in continuity. Again, I don't know what it was a reference to, but it has nothing to do with the actual novel. It's like a different adventure that Connor's on and talking to Duncan that he may need his help later on. Duncan's like, yeah, I got you, cousin. I'll be there for you. Let me just go to the Yukon and get a bunch of gold, and I'll be right back, But anyway, so they have this guide. Sam the Indian is their guide. Sam is mortal. He's not immortal. And this is what goes on. They die 1,000,000 times out in the tundra. And Sam's witnessing this, and he's freaking out. Like, what is going on here? He sees Fitz die twice. The first time, he gets shot. Fitz gets shot, kills over, dies. Sam sees him die. Then he gets up. He's like, no, he didn't hit me that bad. He's like, no, I saw you. That was a mortal wound. He's like, no, it was just a scratch. You saw wrong. And then later on, Fitz falls off a waterfall into freezing water and then dies again. But then Duncan and Danny are like saying, oh, no, we got him to breathe later on. And Sam's like, no, the man you pulled out of that river was dead, And then later on, all three immortals get attacked by a bear. And Sam witnesses this. He witnesses we get cut to shreds by a bear. Sam's smart. He's an Indian. He saw the bear coming. He hides. But now those, crazy white men, they just got themselves killed. He's kind of rummaging through to see what they need, and then they kind of wake up, and it scares them to death. They're like, what is going on here? They're like, no, we're okay. It's just a few scratches. Now, I should mention, the best one, Danny falls off a mountain. He's not watching where he's going. He falls off the mountain and dies. So the whole time, Sam is looking at this, and all of these people are dying. They're trying to make excuses. Now, he knows at this point something's wrong with these people. But here is the missed opportunity. This is not played up as comedic. None of these deaths are played up as comedic. They're not making jokes. They're not trying to, wink at the camera or anything. No. It's kind of from Sam's point of view that these people keep dying, but they keep rising from the dead. What is going on? Well, he doesn't know about immortality, but it's a mystery to him. And you're like, no, this should be a hilarious comedy. It's starring Fitz. It's funny that these people keep dying. It was hilarious when Danny fell off the mountain. And how do you explain when you get cut down by a bear and he sees you get cut down by a bear? And they all die several times. And, Fitz dying over and over again. This should be comedic. It is not played comedic at all. It's just them being serious, trying to pretend like nothing happened. And him just going, I need to watch these. These are mysterious people. Maybe the wind gods give them life again, or the eagle gives them life or whatever. Sam's trying to dig into his religion for answers. And I'm like, no, why isn't this played for humor? It should be funny. I'm laughing, and then I find out later on, oh, you're not supposed to laugh. It's a very serious time. It's sad out. It's awful out in the Yukon. You can die. Look how dangerous it is. And basically every way, I guess, people died back in the day, she kills off the immortals to just show how bad it was out there. But it's not done for comedic purposes. There's no comedy in this whatsoever. Total missed opportunity. Should have been played comical. Well, anyway, here's how I know it's not comical. Because Sam, who's been hilarious this whole time watching this stuff, you're supposed to be laughing, right? No, Sam dies. He gets sick and dies. There's nothing they can do for him. I'm like, wait, what? Because that's just the life in the Yukon. So terrible. Well, later on, when it should be funny, it's not. It just gets even worse. She's playing this like Misery, the movie. Danny goes snowblind. You know, I can't remember. All he sees is white snow, the white reflecting off the sun. He's not shielding his eyes or whatever, and so he goes temporarily blind. And then, as he's blind, he starts going crazy. He starts talking to himself. He's hearing, quote-unquote, angels. And he's really starting to worry Duncan. Duncan's getting kind of worried. Well, eventually, it looks like they're all going to die of frostbite because they can't travel anymore. They're sore. They're hungry. They're out of food. And it looks like they're all going to die. And Duncan's like, look, Fitz, I know you want to make money, but we're not going to make it back, especially with all this gold. So let's just get one little pouch of gold. It's not much, but just we got to lighten our load. That's the only way. And Prince is like, okay, but I'm coming back for the rest of it. He's like, okay, you're a moron, but let's just get out of here. I just want to get out of here in one piece. I don't want to keep dying over and over again. This is a terrible way to die. Again, this should be comedic, right, between the Duncan and Fitz. It's not. It's not. It's like drab, miserable, angry bitterness toward each other. Okay, so anyway, they dump everything. They have a small pouch. They're moving back. You know, this would be one of Fitz's crazy ideas, but it's not even looking like that. So they try to make it home. They're dying of starvation and waking back up. I mean, it's just really just sad. You're like, geez, what's going on here? Well, eventually Danny just goes crazy because he can't keep dying over and over again like that. You know, he's kind of new. He's not getting it. So he goes after Fitz. Fitz tells him to calm down, shut up, quit your whining, because Fitz isn't in a good mood either. So he just starts attacking Fitz. Well, now Duncan's upset because Danny's a better fighter than Fitz. And Danny can and will beat Fitz and behead him. And Duncan's like, oh no, because he has to follow the rules. He can't interfere. But a dog interferes. They had a dog with him, and the dog finally, this is how the dog dies, I think. I think Fitz maybe saves the dog. But anyway, the dog gets stabbed with a sword or whatnot and interrupts the fight. Well, because there is an interruption, a break in the fight, I guess that means the rules state that the fight ends. So then Duncan jumps in and says, I challenge you, Danny, just so he wouldn't kill Fitz. So Fitz and Danny's insane. So Danny's like, okay, and he starts wielding a sword at Duncan, who easily defeats him and beheads him. And then later on, at the end of this, when they finally make it back, they have to heal from the frostbite and the starvation and everything. Connor comes back with more information of whatever mission they're on, and Duncan says, okay, and then he disappears. Then Connor disappears from the story again. You're like, again, I have no idea what that was supposed to be about. But this series, White Silence, which had so much potential, is such missed potential. I mean, it should have been comedic the entire time. She had a comedy gold really on her hand. Fitz has a get-rich-quick scheme that ends up being more trouble than it's worth, and they all come back sadder. But no, it seems like everyone dies on the mission except for Duncan and Fitz. And by the way, they die several times during the mission. But it's not comedic. We should be sad. These were the harsh times up in Alaska. And I think that's really what Ginger wanted to write, was about a Yukon trip that goes horribly wrong, because it's just a terrible, terrible, sad book with zero laughs. And it looks like, oh, I have to kill off an immortal? Okay, well, I'll just put it here. I mean, it kind of makes sense. It doesn't feel forced. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like Highlander. If it's going to be a Fitz episode, you know it's got to be funny. In fact, the only funny thing, I will say this, there was one funny thing now I think about it. When Sam the Indian dies and they bury him, Fitz decides to sing a song, and Duncan's shocked at how good his voice is. Now, that's kind of funny because the actor is also a singer in real life. So, that I enjoyed, but I don't even know if that was supposed to be funny. I think that was just a nod to the singer who portrayed Fitz. I guess that's only it. But the whole, to be honest, she switches this to a comedy. It's the best book in the series if you make it comedic about them. Because as I'm telling this, you may have been laughing at first about how many times they died, different ways they died, and that should be funny, but it's not. It's supposed to be sad. It's supposed to be miserable. I'll kill Sam the Indian off. I don't care. You're like, you had comedy gold. Sam should be looking around going, what in the world? And killing them off one way or the other would have been great, Maybe Danny keeps falling off the cliff and they keep mad at him. So they, put him on a little rope. They tie a rope around him so he won't fall down next time. But then he gets attacked by a bear or gets hung up on the rope and hangs himself. I don't know. They could have made a ton of funny jokes out of this, but just a total missed opportunity was White Silence. and sad ending to what was overall, these Highlander novels aren't bad. If you're a fan of the series, I do recommend reading them all. Heck, you may even like the ones that I don't like. And like I said, White Silence isn't a bad one. It's just a ton of missed opportunities. Missed opportunities is what it is, because it should have been a comedy. A comedy, and it'd have been the best one of the series. But anyway, I digress, folks. That is it. That is all the reviews there. I still got some more books to talk about with Highlander, but I'll talk about them next time on Princes of the Universe.